Hi, and welcome to another episode of All Things Considered. Tonight I want to speak to you about Seattle and the City Council and the homeless problem and the news magazine The Stranger, or the newspaper called The Stranger. And in this particular episode of The Stranger, it says, this Seattle City Council candidate wants to force thousands of homeless people into abandoned warehouses. They make it sound like it's such a horrible thing. They want to force thousands of homeless people into abandoned warehouses. Okay, it was by Lester Black. He's a writer for the Stranger. Now, I'm going to read you a couple of things. I'm going to read you a couple things from his blog or news article, and then I'm going to expound on it because I've been coming to the City Council for over the last year or so with the idea of moving the homeless into some abandoned factory-style warehouses that Boeing owns, that they can't do nothing with. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. It says here, solving Seattle's homeless crisis has perplexed our local leaders for years. But the City Council candidate in District 5, Ann Davison-Sadler, thinks she has a solution. Aggressively enforce anti-camping laws and then round up any remaining homeless people and force them to live in abandoned warehouses. Well, that's not exactly true. Exactly. Her idea is based off of my idea, which I've been bringing to the City Council for going on 1.5 to 2 years now. It says here, the plan calls for housing 2,000 people in two vacant Sam's Club locations in North Seattle and Renton. Imagine it, Hurricane Katrina-style housing without the hurricane. He doesn't... Look, Lester, I don't know where you're getting your information, but you don't really understand what's going on here exactly. I wrote you an email. If you happen to see this video blog, which you probably won't, but if somebody sees it and turns you on to it, this is the way it may happen. Now, the photo that you showed, that's not exactly... Yeah, that's not exactly the way the tent city looks in Seattle, but I'm glad they were thinking of using the Sam's Club locations because I had thought about contacting Boeing, and they have a couple of factories that are no longer usable that were used to make machine parts for engines for airplanes that they're not using, and they would donate the warehouses to Seattle. Seattle would in turn help renovate the warehouses to be livable. There would be cots brought in. People would stay in those warehouses for 6 months to a year. It would be a workable shelter. If you're a drug addict, you could get into treatment. If you're homeless due to losing your job, you would get a job. If you are homeless due to losing an apartment, they would help you get into affordable housing. If you're on SSI, you would have to save at least half of your money each month toward your move out of the shelter. It's a workable shelter, and at night, if you wanted to work, you could, and you could sleep during the day because most shelters, in fact, all shelters really, they do not allow people to work at night and stay in a shelter during the day. They're not set up for that. It says here, the plan seems questionably legal, and one of Seattle's leading homelessness service providers calls it not believable in any regard, but Sadler isn't just some kook on Facebook. She is one of 2 people who could hold the District 5 seat on the City Council next year, so it's worth examining. What the hell does this Seattle Times endorsed candidate want to do to people experiencing homelessness? Well, Lester, you don't understand what's going on here. You're hearing an idea and you're running with it, and I applaud you for bringing it to people's attention. I really do. But something's got to be done about the homelessness problem. You can't allow it to just keep being there. You can't say, well, they're people too. Well, they are people too, but you can't just say, oh, they're people too and they have the right to live. No, they're surviving right now. They're not living. There's a difference between surviving and living. Those of us that are making enough money to have an apartment and to have a lifestyle and to be able to go and do stuff that we want, that's living. Having a roof over your head, searching for food every day, clean clothes, a place to go to when you have nothing else to do, that's surviving. And that's pretty much what the homeless are going through in Seattle. And the reason I'm so hell-bent on making Seattle a better place is because I love Seattle, for one. That's my home away from home. I live in Minneapolis at the moment, but I love Seattle, and once Seattle gets fixed, and it could become a model city for the rest of the United States. It could. You never know, but you got to start somewhere, and I planned on starting in Seattle. If I can't live there, I can at least make Seattle better for those that are. So it says here, the plan calls for housing 2,000 people. That's what it says. Her plan laid out in a series of 4 smartly designed infographics calls for first building 3 FEMA-style relief shelters at an abandoned Renton Sam's Club, a North Seattle Sam's Club, and an old mill site on Harbor Island in the Port of Seattle. Sadler thinks she can house up to 5,500 people at these 3 sites for a total cost of $7.9 million, a fraction of the city's current $90 million homelessness service budget. I applaud her for that. It is a lot cheaper going that route. See here. Although these numbers seem somewhere between made up and incredibly optimistic, Lester, I think you're just a party pooper and you don't want this thing to succeed. Once the shelters are up and running, Sadler's plan calls for buying 6 buses that can be used to transport people and their belongings to these. You had to use the word prison, didn't you, Lester? They're not prisons, they're shelters. I hope to God that you're never homeless, Lester. I hope to God you're never homeless and you're looking at the outside from the inside. I hope you aren't. After fully implementing these complete access solutions, the only way to ensure the crisis will improve is by enforcing no street camping regulations. Sadler says on her website, if those struggling are provided a livable, sheltered environment with substance abuse treatment services, they are more likely to find a path back to self-sufficiency and community. I have been preaching that to the Seattle City Council for the last year and a half after about 10 years of thought process behind all this. This just didn't come up overnight. I've been thinking about this forever. The drug problem started back in the year 2000. I mean, the drug problems was there before, but the people doing heroin and meth on the streets, especially heroin, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was heroin. For those doing heroin, they were told, bring us your needles, we'll give you brand new ones, you won't get into trouble, we're not going to get your dealer into trouble, we want to keep you safe. If you're going to do the drugs, at least be safe about it. Don't drop needles for people to bump into them by accident and get infected. Okay, so she has the right idea. Sadler is running against incumbent council member Deborah Juarez. Sadler only earned a 26.7% of August's primary votes, but Juarez also only received about 45.1%, a share that is considered low for a sitting incumbent. So, I believe that this will work if it's implemented correctly. And now that I know they're actually going to get this off the ground and running, I am going to write Deborah Juarez, and I am going to write Ann Sadler, and I am going to speak to them one-on-one, and I'm going to give them my ideas, and I'm going to help them cultivate this into something that's viable and productive. Daniel Malone, the executive director of the highly respected Downtown Emergency Service Center, which I happen to have worked there back in the 90s, said Sadler's plan to create massive shelters is fundamentally flawed. I can't imagine anyone thinking it's a good idea to liberally house 1,000 to 2,000 people together, even if you had ample staff to run the place, which this plan decidedly does not. Yes, it does, because they are going to use my idea. You have a lot of people that are going to college to become what? Counselors. Counselors for drug rehab. Counselors for homelessness and various other things. And they will get extra credits by volunteering their services from time to time at the shelter. And I will call Daniel Malone and I will tell him that personally, which I know the number to the Downtown Emergency Service Center, and I will talk to him on Monday, because the Downtown Emergency Service Center is very close to where? Pioneer Square. That's for people that don't think I know where it's located. Sadler's numbers also don't add up. She claims on her website that the shelters will provide people access to specialized mental health and physical health services, but her budget provides almost no money for staffing. That's because she's going to use volunteers, and they're going to get special credits from school. It will help them. It's almost like you are going to college, but what do they say? You are an apprentice. You are working for somebody that already owns a job, and you are in an apprenticeship. You are working, counseling, going to school for counseling. Hello? Y'all don't see the bigger picture here. Sadler's numbers don't add up. Okay, her infographics say the shelters will have basic staff only, no special services, but it will, because I'm going to call her and we're going to talk this out on Monday. I'm going to tell her this is very, very important that she listens to me, because I've got this all worked out and I know what I'm doing here. I just have to get her the idea, and we have to figure out exactly how to take the idea and put it into practice. Malone said that having a huge client-to-staff ratio would be very problematic for Sadler's shelters, and that her plan doesn't even consider various other required expenses. I see most of the money is earmarked for debt services, and the remaining amount would be used for basic staff. And sanitation costs, well, the city volunteers some of their time to go in and clean up. You got companies that will bid on what they're going to do, and the city will offer them perks for doing the help as far as the cleanup goes, the sanitation. Now, as far as the funding, you get people like Amazon. You talk to Jeff Bezos and you say, could you please donate? You don't force him to donate. You don't force Microsoft to donate. You come to them nicely. You ask them to do you a favor, where at such time you will owe them a favor. If you come to Jeff Bezos and you say, Mr. Bezos, you own Amazon, and we appreciate you being here in our very vibrant city. We're asking for a favor. Could you please donate so much money a year to help us with this problem? You go to Microsoft and talk to Bill and Linda Gates. You say, could you please help us with this problem? You go to the Seahawks and you say, could you please donate so much money to this problem? You get season ticket holders, and you get people that go to the games to watch the games. So much percentage of their ticket will help go. Say the ticket's $100, I'm going to give a round figure and say you buy a ticket for $50 to see the Seahawks. $5 out of that $50 will go to help the homeless shelter. Hello? You do that with the Mariners. And you do that with the new soccer team that's coming in and all that stuff. You got your money. You got the city, the citizens are helping with this problem, and the citizens are getting to see a game. So they're getting something out of the deal. And they feel good about themselves at night because they know that part of the money is going to help the homeless. And it's going to make the city of Seattle look better, and it's going to make the city of Seattle feel better. And by doing this, it's also going to help. It's going to help the tourist, because let's face it, who wants to go visit Seattle and step on a bunch of homeless people? I wouldn't. I'm not down on the homeless. I love the homeless because I was homeless myself, so I understand. But the homeless has to get stopped. That's it. Of course, you can't stop homeless 100%. There's always going to be somebody losing their apartment on a day-to-day basis and they become homeless. But you can get it down to a manageable size. And that's the deal. The manageable size. Now, the Downtown Emergency Service Center could also be part of the homelessness shelter. They're downtown. Why do they have to be downtown? And also, why can't the Union Gospel Mission and the Salvation Army jump on board and help out? Because they won't do that, because they're making loads of money off the homeless. Now, the shelters are going to create a stink over this. They are. You got the Union Gospel Mission, you got the Salvation Army, you got a couple other shelters in the Pioneer Square area that are going to hate this idea. You're taking money out of their pocket. I'm not saying they're bad. They're not. They're not bad. I mean, they're not like horrible bad. But they haven't ended up on Raymond Reddington's top most wanted yet. But they do make money off the homeless. And there's an awful lot of people that feed the homeless that get a lot out of it too. The ones that make up the dinners and take them to the parks and they feed the homeless. They get something out of this too. They get the satisfaction of being able to help somebody. And that's a great thing. It is. It's great. I've fed the homeless. I've eaten in soup kitchens. And I've also worked in soup kitchens where I've dished out rice and I've dished out pot roast and various other things, soups and hot chocolate on a cold winter's night. I have. But I'm just saying that this can work. And I'm going to help the city council, whoever becomes part of that. I hope that if Sadler doesn't win, I hope the Juarez takes this and runs with it. I'm going to ask both of them, if you win, please keep this idea going because it'll work. Now I'm going to talk to the rest of the city council and I'm going to ask them if they will help make this work, because something's got to be done. See, in 2025, I plan on running for mayor. And I plan on cleaning up Seattle and make it the way it used to be when I lived there. I know you got to live in Seattle to be mayor, but I'm giving it a little bit of time. That's why I said 2025. There's an upcoming election in 2021 for mayor. So I'm going to see what happens between now and then. And then in 2025, I will already be in Seattle. I will be running for mayor. Between now and then, I'll be going back and forth to Seattle, speaking to business owners, speaking to the city council, getting myself known, telling all my dirty secrets that I have in my life that people could possibly launder in the public veneer. And yeah, so, you know, I'm going to let people know who I am. What you see is what you get. I'm not going to be fancy. I'm not going to dress up in a suit and a tie. I'm a jeans and a nice shirt kind of guy. I have teeth problems, as you probably noticed. So yeah, I mean, that's just the way I am. But I care about Seattle, and I want to fix Seattle. And it shouldn't be about how you work, how you look. It should be about how you get things done. And do you care about the city? This isn't a job for me. This is a calling. If you like my videos, put a comment down there and tell me what you think. If you got an idea for fixing a homeless problem that's better than what I just brought to you, please put that in the comment below too. Put it in a comment down there. This is a you and I thing. I can't get this done by myself. It's you, the public, and the me sitting behind the camera looking at the public. Anyway, if you like my videos, put a big old thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. If you want to subscribe, please hit the subscribe button. And yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good start. I'm pretty pleased that somebody's talking about this now. Like I said, I will have talks to a couple of the people that were in this article. I wrote Lester a letter explaining what I thought about his news article here in The Stranger. Although I'm a little upset with some of the stuff he wrote and how he made it sound, but I applaud you, Lester, for bringing this to the attention of the public. I applaud you for at least having the balls to talk about it. Seattle's went on being homeless like this for long enough. It's not fair to the homeless that are living in tents, especially if you have another winter like you did last year. It ain't going to be fair to the homeless. At least living inside these big places, these big Sam's Clubs, it'll be warm and it'll be dry. You ain't got to worry about being rained on or snowed on. So this has been All Things Considered. Have a good night, Seattle, America, and all points beyond.